Many of the things here, and I didn't know that, and very impressed nonetheless. Bob Schmidt attended Bakersfield High School from 1953 to 1957, playing football, basketball, and baseball. Bob played on the junior varsity team his freshman year and sophomore year, and varsity while as a junior and senior. He was starting quarterback for 3 years, but played behind Carl Bowser his senior year. He received all-league honors his senior year in football, and the Drillers won the conference championship. 23 players received college scholarships, with 7 players from the 56-57 team drafted to the NFL. Bob excelled in basketball as well, starting on the varsity team for 3 years. He was selected All-American in his senior year and was selected to play in the National East-West game in Kansas, but had to drop out because of an injury. Bob received a full scholarship to play football at Notre Dame in 1957. He was the scout team quarterback during his freshman year, since as a freshman he was not eligible, and by the spring he was on the third team. He transferred to USC after his freshman year at Notre Dame, sat out his sophomore year, and lost a year of eligibility. However, his junior and senior year at USC, he was the backup quarterback to Willie Wood and Billy Nelson. After graduating from USC, Bob went on to law school at Georgetown University in 1961. Some of Bob's accomplishments are: worked in the Kennedy administration as an advance man for the president, served 6 months in the Air Force Reserve, selected to be the head coach of the Georgetown University varsity football team, worked for President Johnson, built telecom and cable television companies in the USSR, Ireland, Argentina, Philippines, and rural America. He co-founded the C-SPAN network during his tenure as president of the National Cable Television Association. Bob has been married for 46 years and is the father of 6 sons and 5 daughters. They are his most important blessing. Bob has had 5 bypass heart surgeries in the past 3 years, but the Lord has given him some more time. His latest project is the Professional Sports Players Network, PSPN. It will be the first satellite cable television broadcast internet video network owned and operated by professional men and women athletes, and it will launch in 2011. Once a driller, always working is what that tells me. and from Bob, this quote: I have had a blessed life, but never forgetting I grew up on 16th Street with the Santa Fe in my front yard. The most important thing in my life is that Jesus Christ is my personal Savior. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Schmidt.
How many know Carl Bowser? There really is a connection about Driller in so many facets of our life. I came here as a 10-year-old boy from Chicago, and I thought I was Shanghai. I thought, where's the subway? Where's the elevator? How do you get out of this place? So I'm at St. Francis, then I'm in Garces Junior High, and my brother, who's a year behind me in school, and I, and the Hernandez brothers. If you don't know George and Joe Hernandez, toughest Mexican kids pound for pound I ever met. Because growing up in Bakersfield, if you didn't learn to fight, you weren't much of anything anyway. So the idea was that we were all going to go to Garces. Well, I wanted to go where the best competition was. So I decided I want to go to Bakersfield because I hung out with Bowser and Larry Austin and Farrell Ming. And these guys were big shots over at Beale Park. If you had to go to Beale Park, you had to get past their goal. So the priest of my parish calls my dad and myself in. And my dad was an immigrant from Germany and just a tough guy. He was a referee and an umpire. So he's giving us the pitch. He's saying, in an Irish brogue, Mr. Schmidt, if Robert goes to the public high school, he's going to be a little fish in a big pond. If he goes to the Garces High School, he's going to be a big fish in a big pond. And I said, Bob, I want to go where the big guys are. So at the end of the conversation, he said, my father, being very subtle, said, "Father so-and-so, I've had enough of your blanket. Man. Take the collar off and let's go outside." True story. I have to grab my father, yank him out of here, and I said, this is an absolute true story. This is where I met the Lord. I understood there was a reason why I was supposed to go to Bakersfield High School. But you see, living at 16th Street, literally it was across the street from school. But you couldn't go that way. You had to come all the way around to H to get across. So, as the world turns, I've always said, I appointed myself ambassador for Bakersfield. And, people would say, "Where are you from?" A lot of folks from the East Coast would say, "Where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from L.A., I'm from San Francisco." I said, "I'm from beautiful downtown Bakersfield." But you see, it's funny, these people that I grew up with, Bowser's, names, Tim Lamucci, here's another one of my friends. We end up in Washington going to law school together, and we lived together. Well, Lamucci was the enemy. He went to East High, so this was a concession that you'd be living with the guy. So we had all this great relationship in Washington. But it was amazing how many turns in the road I would run into former drillers doing different things. And Dennis Ralston was, as you know, a great tennis player and a great product of Bakersfield. Well, I was the lifeguard at the Bakersfield Racket Club. And he said, "Bob, will you teach me how to play basketball?" And I said, "Deal." I said, "You teach me how to play tennis, but don't tell anybody." It was not cool to be playing tennis. So later on, just to show you how the world turns, I was with a large corporation which got into some political trouble back in the 60s. We helped the CIA get rid of Allende in Chile. Usually you get a Medal of Honor, but the Foreign Relations Committee wanted to investigate us for bad judgment, And I said, "We've got to do something to raise up our flag again." And I called Dennis, and he was the captain of the Davis Cup team. And I said, "Have you ever had a corporate sponsor?" He said, "No." I said, "You have one now." And that's how we, Bakersfield guys getting together again. But I have to tell you, and Bowser told me if I talk more than 3 more minutes, he's going to stand up and walk out. I do want to talk about my family a little bit. And my sister and my brother and my cousin are here. And 3 of my sons. And, I always say, God is good. He takes care of widows, orphans, and imbeciles, and I'm still on the list. and you see, if you don't keep it in order, God first, your family second, your friends close by, then you got it backwards. And I've been very fortunate. I got great kids, great family, and these sons of mine, they came 3,000 miles to be here for this event. So I got to brag on it a little bit. My oldest son who's here, his name is Christian. And Christian was a baseball player at USC, and he became a rugby player at the university there in Arizona, where they teach you to be a big businessman called Thunderbird School. And when he was 15, in those days I was building a company in the Soviet Union, and just to give you perspective, people say, "What are you doing in the Soviet Union? Are you some sort of communist sympathizer?" I said, "I'm worse than that, I'm a businessman." So I convinced my son, who was in a Jesuit boys' school called Gonzaga in D.C., I said, "Christian, how would you like to go to the Soviet Union?" And he said, "Why?" I stuck him in a young communist camp for 8 weeks in Yalta. And this was all my philosophy. I said, if you come from Bakersfield, you got to teach kids to be tough. So that was my philosophy. You send them off to do something different, train them up to learn another language, do different things. And, that's always been what I believe was the way you're supposed to do it. And I'm absolutely convinced, Brennan, another son, was two-time captain at Virginia, holds the NCAA record for 51 starts, played a whole season with a torn labrum while he was playing football. Now coaches at the University of Virginia. So some of you players in the back of the room, make sure you meet my son. He's looking for good recruits. My other son, Willie Robinson, you hear, the story is my wife and I had 7 children, and then we didn't think that was enough, so we went out and got 4 more. So we have four more great kids in the family, and Willie's one. I'd like to have Brennan, Christian, and Willie stand up if you wouldn't mind. Now, my bride, who's a nurse, is one of those blessings. If you're really fortunate, and I've always said, to come from Bakersfield and never forget where you came from, by the way, and then end up on the East Coast, and your kids still think they're bi-coastal, it's a pretty good deal. So, in closing, I would just say to you, today is so much more important for us to remember the blessings that we have. And not only to remember them, but to do something about them. And I'm a great believer that you give back. And this network that you heard that we're starting is built on the premise that you give back. See, I'm tired of hearing about athletes who think that the first person pronoun is the most important person in the English language, and it's not. And if you step back and look at what this high school has done for many people in this room, and you look at the coach that we had, Paul Briggs, and we started a scholarship in his name, and I encourage all of you, if you would, to help, because the athletes who benefit from that are the athletes here today and tomorrow, who go on to school, who might not have all the financial capacity to get a scholarship, but we're going to try to help them along the way. And if you don't understand, this program tonight is really a very important fundraiser for Coach Gola and his program. And I just encourage you, dig deep in your wallets, help any way you can. Let's continue to, project and perpetuate this great tradition. Thank you very much.